The Raiders drafting Ashton Jeanty was absolutely the right pick. There's no blueprint to building a successful team in the NFL. There's this unwritten rule that you can't draft a running back in the top 10. You need to draft offensive linemen, pass rushers, quarterbacks high, because those are more important to winning in the NFL than having an elite running back. Having a great running back is a luxury. It's not a necessity. You couldn't be more wrong with that statement. Drafting Ashton Jeanty was the Raiders drafting an identity that helped Pete Carroll win the Super Bowl when he was the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. When you think about what made the Seattle Seahawks so great during the prime years of Pete Carroll, it wasn't all because of the Legion of Boom. It was also due to them having Marshawn Lynch beast mode in the backfield. Pete Carroll is an old school coach with a old school philosophy. He wants to play good defense and run the rock down your throat. Ashton Jeanty is one of the best running back prospects in the history of the NFL draft. This isn't just a running back. This is a weapon. This is somebody that's going to hold up and keep Geno Smith upright in third down situations. This is somebody that's going to be a weapon catching the ball out of the backfield for Geno Smith. This is another weapon that you pair alongside of Brock Bowers that makes your offense more threatening than what it was last year. The Raiders' biggest issue on offense last season was their inability to run the football and create explosive runs. They only had less than a dozen runs go for over 10 yards or more last season. That was dead last in the NFL in explosive runs. The Raiders needed Ashton Jeanty because what Ashton Jeanty brings to the Raiders is what they've lacked on offense the past few years, which is an identity, a soul. Ashton Jeanty is going to be able to be that weapon that the Raiders rely on to carry the bulk load of the offense. Geno Smith, when he had some of his best years in Seattle with Pete Carroll, was when he was able to have a legit run game. He's one of the best play action passers in the NFL, so it's a necessity that you give Geno Smith an elite ground game, which is what the Raiders are going to get with the selection of Ashton Jeanty. Now, I know Ashton Jeanty's few reps in the preseason, these 2 weeks, haven't really been that impressive. He hasn't really done much. Against the 49ers, he looked much better than what he did in the Raiders' first preseason game. He ran the guy over. He scored a touchdown. But I don't think that the Raiders have fully showed us what Ashton Jeanty is about to do, because you can only judge somebody so much when they're getting such a limited amount of carries. Ashton Jeanty is one of those guys that wears you down over the course of a game. He's going to turn those 2 and 3 yard gains into 10, 15, 20, and 40-yard home runs as the game wears on. As you go throughout the first 3 quarters, you get worn down having to tackle Ashton Jeanty because despite his small size, he's a locomotive when he runs that football. He doesn't go down off initial contact. It normally takes a crowd of people to bring down Ashton Jeanty. He is a lot bigger than what he looks like on paper. You know, on the side of the mirror in your car, it says, objects in the mirror are closer than what they appear. Well, Ashton Jeanty is a lot more physical and a lot more tougher as a running back than what you may think a guy of his size has the ability to be. He reminds me a lot of Adrian Peterson, but with way better vision. Ashton Jeanty is going to have the greatest rookie season that we've ever seen a rookie running back have with the Raiders this season. The offensive line is nowhere as bad as what it was last season. They had numerous injuries. They got guys coming back healthy. You got Jackson Powers Johnson at center. That dude is a man human. He's not a man. He's a man human. I don't know how anybody's going to be able to slow down Jackson Powers Johnson from just pancaking every defensive tackle that he runs up against. He's big, he's strong, he's powerful, he moves exceptionally well. You still got Colton Miller at left tackle. This Raiders offensive line is going to look way better than what they did last season, which is going to allow Ashton Jeanty to have a lot of success during his rookie season. And even then, Ashton Jeanty doesn't need to have the best offensive line in the NFL to still put up productive numbers. He's one of those guys that makes people miss at the line of scrimmage. Rather if it's him trucking through a guy, putting a spin or a juke move on somebody, Ashton Jeanty is just hard to bring down. He's the full package at running back. He has a great blend of speed and power. He can beat you with elusiveness, or he can finish you running through you with power. And you couple that with good pass blocking and reliable hands, the Raiders didn't draft just a running back with the 6th overall pick. They drafted a weapon. They drafted an identity. They drafted a soul to their team. Pete Carroll, he's giving you better coaching. He's building up a better culture. But the identity of what the Raiders are going to be this year relies solely on Ashton Jeanty. When Ashton Jeanty is having success, Geno Smith is going to have success. When Geno Smith is having success, everybody on this offense is going to have success, along with the rest of the team, because when you have good quarterback play, you have efficient offense, which keeps your defense off the field so they don't have to play more plays than what they should, and they don't get worn out. They don't get tired as quickly. You can keep guys fresher for a lot more longer throughout the course of a game. Ashton Jeanty was the sole pick that the Raiders needed. And to me, he was the second best player in this draft behind Travis Hunter. This was a really weak draft class. You didn't have a bunch of great tackles, a bunch of game-changing edge rushers. There was no Myles Garrett or Michael Parsons in this draft. So the Raiders did what was the best decision to make: draft best player available in Ashton Jeanty. You can never go wrong going BPA. There's no blueprint to building a winning team. There's a bunch of different ways to construct a good team. It doesn't involve always having to invest high draft picks into an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. The Bengals showed us all when they took Jamar Chase in the first round over Penei Sewell that you don't always gotta have great offensive line play. You don't always have to select the edge rusher or a pass rusher to have a championship team. When they drafted Jamar Chase, a lot of people felt it was the wrong decision to make because you got to prioritize it. You got to prioritize protecting your star quarterback. How good can Jamar Chase be if Joe Burrow doesn't have time to throw in the football? Well, Jamar Chase has been pretty freaking good. Despite the Bengals not having a good offensive line, Joe Burrow still went to a Super Bowl in spite of it. So the Bengals showed us with their selection of Jamar Chase that there is more than just one way to building a championship team. They drafted Jamar over Penei Sewell and went to the Super Bowl as soon as they made that selection. So I'm just saying, Ashton Jeanty may not be the right pick in terms of where you normally would draft a running back, but in the Raiders situation, it was the pick that they needed to bring a soul to an offense that hasn't had a soul in the last couple of years.